Welcome to the State of Affairs in partnership with Serbian Radio Chicago. We're having conversations that matter. Very happy to bring back our friend, George Papadopoulos. He served as President Trump's foreign policy advisor. He's an author of a great book, Deep State Target, and we're going to talk about the deep state today. George, welcome back.
Thank you so much for having me.
Our Greek brother from another mother.
Exactly.
How's life these days? Tell me about what you're doing currently. I know you are in Europe. How are things there?
Things have definitely changed over the last 4 years in my life. We've been very fortunate to work with an incredible up-and-coming, well, not really up-and-coming anymore, but almost a rival to Fox News with Newsmax over the last 3 years plus, and seen the channel grow exponentially, and the type of guests that it's getting on, and really having, I guess, an important voice moving into the 2024 election. And currently in Europe with my wife on a little holiday, but business as well, and seeing the situation evolve, both Europe, in the United States and Europe, both politically, economically, and from a security point of view.
So let's talk about Europe. Greek elections just recently, Mitsotakis consolidated from what I can see. Syriza, big losses. Any surprises for you there?
Actually, there was no surprise at the leadership level. What did surprise me, I guess positively, was that there was basically the most conservative parliament in modern Greek history that was just elected. If you want to call it extreme right, I don't. I just call it conservative nationalists, people who love their country, want to secure their borders, want to strengthen the Orthodox identity within Greece to prevent illicit, illegal immigration, which is now becoming a serious security threat in Greece. There was actually just a murder on the Greek island of Kos of a Polish national who was basically raped and killed by five, I think, Bangladeshi or Pakistani illegal immigrants who were just basically living on the island and, you know, targeting women of a specific nationality. And this is what people are tired of in Greece. And the economy is slowly turning around. Mitsotakis, I've known him for many years, going back to my time at the Hudson Institute. I had a phone call with him. I had invited him to a conference on the energy sector in Greece, which is now probably the most important issue in Greece and even the Balkans. And it's very interesting to see how Greece has turned this chapter over the last 10 years.
And I'm glad to hear that. And I do tend to agree with you. There is a certain trend around Europe, essentially, that I think we are all seeing. And I also call them very conservative voices who are coming to the forefront. I just had a conversation with MP Peter Bistron from AfD in Germany, and they are probably the fastest growing party in Germany. They are right up there neck and neck with Angela Merkel's party. They just won a district. Same thing happening in Greece. Same thing happening in Italy. It seems you are in Italy right now. With Meloni's election, what do you make of how she's done so far?
Meloni is an incredibly interesting leader. She's the first female premier in Italy, and she's also the first really outspoken populist nationalist prime minister that they've had in decades. Berlusconi, I believe, was more of an economic populist, but Meloni is really, from my understanding, following the media here, I understand enough Italian to follow the news and to see how she's received. She has an incredible approval rating. She's focusing on the economy. She's focusing on societal values. She's trying to toughen the immigration border control, but it's very difficult because the European Union has overarching authority when it comes to that particular issue. But one issue that I think some people are a bit disappointed about her is her foreign policy.
Yes.
She just seems to be following, like many in Europe, let's be realistic, many in NATO, probably all of NATO, is in uniform regarding the war in Ukraine, antagonism or aggression towards Russia. And it's, I gave an interview actually at the beginning of the Ukrainian war to Il Riformista, along with Susan Rice, who she gave an interview to the same newspaper. It was very interesting. The same day, it was me and her talking about what my predictions were of the Ukraine war. And what I predicted was that the main winners would end up being the United States, China, and Russia, with Europe being the ultimate loser. Europe is going to end up buying, and this is something I said over a year ago, extreme quantities of natural gas, more expensive than what they were getting from Russia. They're going to buy more armaments from the West, including America, which is exactly what's happening. And Russia will end up basically taking everything that Putin eventually wanted from Ukraine before the war even started. And that means de facto annexation of the East, Crimea, and basically a neutralized Ukraine. And that's really what's going to happen. And unfortunately, you did not need thousands and thousands of innocent people and soldiers to die, billions of American tax dollars to go to Ukraine to prevent this. It all could have been prevented, but deep state in America and the West did not want that to be prevented. They wanted this to happen. And unfortunately, the world is suffering as a result.
Excellent points. I, again, tend to agree with you on this. And we have been saying that the Europeans have been shooting themselves in the foot throughout this entire process. The unelected bureaucrats, obviously, from Brussels are dictating to everybody else. But you see people like Viktor Orban, for example, he is now the poster child, I feel, of this new conservative awakening around Europe. And I am hoping that many will follow suit. But there's been an increased tension in the Balkans. I know both of us always follow this. Kosovo became an issue again. There is a renewed crisis. And my take is Ukraine, obviously, as you pointed out, is not really going well for the deep state. And the Balkans are always ripe for yet another conflict. Do you think that is a new possible target?
Well, certainly Southeast Europe as a whole is increasing in importance to the United States, Russia, NATO, China, even India is beginning to be much more prevalent, including with their navies in the Eastern Mediterranean and Southeast Europe as a whole. And that's actually why the United States is now actually using Greece itself and the port of Alexandroupolis as the key port to transit weaponry into the Balkans, into Southeast Europe, from Greece into Bulgaria, Romania, and obviously into Ukraine. Now, the war in Ukraine is not going well. Russia is winning this war. This fake coup that just emerged a couple days ago was a nothing burger. Nothing emerged from that. This was simply an internal conflict in which the Defense Ministry and Wagner Group couldn't come to an agreement. There was a bombing. And now there's been some sort of immunity deal that's been reached. So I don't see that continuing. But because of the issues and because of the situation in the Balkans with Serbia, Kosovo, and Albania, and even Montenegro now, and the distraction that I believe the West wants from the failing war, you likely will see the Balkans heat up. You will likely see more spillover conflicts, even more deaths, potentially more arrests. And you're also going to see more and more diplomatic shuffling in Serbia, as we have seen over the last 6 months or so. Now, does that mean that Serbia, which of course has been a historic ally of Russia, but also wants to keep its foot in the West as a Western-oriented country, is going to be a victim of this shuttle diplomacy? We don't know. But we do know that Kosovo is being emboldened. We know that the Kosovar authorities are instigating, in my opinion, a potential conflict with Serbia. And this isn't in the interest of anybody, including the United States, to have happened. I think the United States needs to calm these tensions. And in order to do that, they need to rein back Kosovo from their instigation.
I agree with you. And as we discussed, I have been working closely with Ambassador Rick Grenell. And it seems that the Trump administration, even though not in power, is still trying to bring peace, while the Biden administration, ever since, it's been, 3 years now, the world has imploded completely. And none of this would be happening if President Trump was still our president. But I want to come back now home. Let's talk about 2024. And let's talk about President Trump's indictment. What do you make of it? Obviously, the coup against President Trump, the colored revolution here in our country continues.
Now, whenever I'm asked this question, I just want people to imagine if Attorney General Barr, who was President Trump's Attorney General, was sitting at the Department of Justice and he had just authorized a raid into President, or I should say candidate Biden's home, indicted candidate Biden in the middle of a presidential campaign season, and decided to indict candidate Biden on a series of superfluous and baseless charges for one reason and one reason only, and that is to interfere in the past election. Well, that's exactly what just happened with President Biden ordering his attorney general to not only issue federal charges, but also working in concert with a Manhattan DA to indict candidate Trump with state charges in order to bleed his coffers with legal fees and to distract the public from the issues at hand, which is inflation at record levels, potential for World War III, an open border, a society which is losing its identity. And we're in the midst of an identity crisis within America. It's never been as divided as it has as over the past 10 years. It is right now. And this is all a deflection. We also just had the Durham testimony in which Congressman Matt Gaetz and Congressman Massey basically asked him or told him, we know that there was a Western intelligence plot against against candidate Trump and his administration. This is what candidate Trump has been facing since 2015, 2016 through 2020, and now running again as a candidate. I don't think this is going to work. And I don't say this as somebody who supports him. I just look at the reaction of the American people. His poll numbers have gone up every indictment, and he raises millions of dollars every single time he's indicted. Now, what does that mean? That means that the American people are tired of the two-tier justice system. They see right through this charade, and I believe they want to get America back on track, help President Trump get reelected, and actually use him to clean house, and that is the deep state in Washington.
Well, so you have been on the receiving end of the wrath of the deep state, just as have our friends Mike Flynn and Roger Stone and President Trump. As we said, the witch hunt continues, but is it helpful at this point to have also polarization within the conservative movement itself? Obviously, we have a lot of candidates now that are running. You are right, President Trump is consistently consolidating his poll numbers. He is charging ahead, even with Governor DeSantis, who is my own governor. We have a good relationship. I love Governor DeSantis, but I don't think this was a smart political move for him. What do you think about our conservative side infighting that is currently going on?
I believe while any American citizen who decides that they would like to run for president can and should if they would like to, I also think it's not politically expedient or smart for certain candidates to have actually announced to run in this very hostile, heated political climate in which candidate Trump is viewed by millions of Americans today as a political prisoner of some nature. And when you have candidates decide to run for their own glory or just to basically pay consultants or to build their name recognition like some other candidates out there have begun to do so, it really looks like it's many people think it's some sort of grift. And I don't think it's going to bode well for certain candidates, including Governor DeSantis, who I was a very strong supporter of. I think he's done incredible stuff in Florida. However, Florida is not America. Florida is Florida. There's a completely different beast around the rest of the United States. And we've seen it also within Florida, where many Congress people have endorsed President Trump over DeSantis. We've seen DeSantis losing in polling against candidate Trump ever since Trump keeps getting indicted, because I think the American people today view him as a prisoner potentially and somebody they want to rally behind, and they view everybody else as a potential distraction. So I believe if I was advising other candidates at this point, drop out, rally around candidate Trump for the better of the country, and expect to do better in the next election after 2024.
Agree with you. Let's talk about the Democrat side. Joe Biden, obviously, as much as we can see that he is not cognitively well. Even the other day with Prime Minister Modi, he blabbered that he sold state secrets, which comes as no surprise to us, given Hunter Biden's laptop from hell and what we know about the big guy and his 10%. But you mentioned the two-tier justice system and the fact that Hunter Biden, for all of his criminal activity, seems to be getting a slap on the wrist. We also know that they have received monies from China and other foreign nationals, and nothing is happening. What do you think our Republican leadership should be doing at this point, if anything?
The most important thing that the Republican leadership should be doing, and this is something I expound on television a lot over the past 2 months or so, including basically trying to advise, if you will, Congressman James Comer to continue to ratchet up the heat. And what does that mean, ratchet up the heat? That means provide evidence, make things transparent. When things are transparent, accountability follows. And if you continue to show receipts, meaning illicit payments, alleged bribes, quid pro quo, selling out America for foreign policy favors to various countries, including Romania, China, potentially others that we have yet to hear about, at the end of the day, the American people will see through this charade of what is the Biden crime syndicate, the Biden administration. They will decide they don't want this anymore. And actually, they themselves, including Democrats and independents, will be the ones who pressure their Congress people to potentially convict President Biden should this result in an impeachment. So that's what should be happening. You should continue to present the evidence, let the American people contact their Congress people, let the media cover it, because the louder this gets, even CNN, MSNBC, ABC will be forced to cover it. We even saw Chuck Todd, before he resigned from Meet the Press, call out the FBI, call out the Biden family. We've seen the media begin to question Karine Jean-Pierre a lot more about the recent Hunter Biden slap on the wrist. People are tired of this. America looks like a banana republic today, and this is something that cannot stand.
Agree with you. So going into 2024, lastly, what are your expectations? As much as we are pushing forward, I am still fearful of the fact that we haven't consolidated some of our main states like Nevada, like Arizona, Wisconsin, Georgia. There is a potential win in Georgia. As far as I'm hearing, Dominion will be scrapped, but the election laws overall have not changed. Are we confident that we can vote ourselves out of this mess and consolidate and get behind President Trump as he goes forward?
Well, that's why election integrity is such a strong issue that candidate Trump is openly discussing his plans for combating, and including ballot harvesting and basically using the rules that are on the books that the Democrats have been using so wisely over the past, four elections or so, which have really helped them gain seats of power at the national level. So I think President Trump, along with other organizations, including TPUSA, are now openly discussing strategies to combat the scourge of illicit voting, using voter ID laws, and emboldening their citizens and their supporters to actually go out and vote, and not to believe that this is simply a lost cause. Because if you don't go out and vote, that's what the Democrats want you to do. They want you to sit at home, believe that you can't win, that it's all rigged, and there's no reason to get out and do anything. But as long as, like I said, the heat is ratcheted up from Congress against the Biden administration, and that the Republicans at the state level use the laws on the books to help their citizens and their supporters get out and vote in a transparent manner, I think we're going to be okay. And I think that's why it's so important for candidate Trump to continue to espouse these ideas, so that the state legislators in various states, including Georgia, Nevada, others, get their act together, make sure the elections are verifiable, make sure they're safe and secure, so that our democracy survives.
George, thank you so much for being with us today. Excellent insights.
Thank you so much for having me.